Welcome to True North. So, this is the podcast where we're exploring moments and mindsets and missions that shape the next generation of changemakers. So, today I'm joined by someone who I think perfectly embodies innovation with heart. So, Adishree is an engineer, a creative thinker, and founder of Pleasantry, a startup revolutionizing how we think about corporate social responsibility through purpose driven advertising, all while tackling something many still don't talk about enough: period poverty. So, welcome. I'm excited to have you here. Let's just start off with how's your week been?
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting. But yeah, no, it's been good. It's been busy. It's a lot of well, cold calling at the moment.
Fair enough, fair enough.
To be honest.
Okay, so to start, we'll start way back, as far back as you'd like. Just walk me through your journey in your own words. Kind of tell me about the stepping stones that brought you to where you are right now.
Um, so I guess it starts with my degree actually, because so I'm an engineer, but I did it with innovation. Sort of going into uni, I always knew I wanted to start a company, but I thought it'd be sort of, that's something 30-year-olds do once they've had a job and God knows what, right? I did my degree with innovation, and that whole part of my course was just, create, innovate, create, like start a business. Like they threw into the deep end with it. I recommend it if anyone ever wants to go into innovation. So there I learned a lot about, how do you come up with an idea? How do you research a problem space? And starting a business became a lot more tangible. So over the 3 years before I started my company, it was a lot of like sprints where we would be given a massive problem space like the food industry. And we'd be told like, okay, find any problem within this, solve it, and submit a pitch. And so it became a lot easier to visualize actually starting a company because we had to go through all the motions of it. And so by the time I had this idea, it was almost easier to start it than to not. And so yeah, beginning of fourth year, I started this, and here we are.
Yeah, okay. And now we're going to go even further back. So, we're going to go back to kid you, like child you right now. What kind of kid do you think you were growing up? For example, were you kind of an inventor? Were you a dreamer? Are you just observing? What kind of, who are you?
um I think inventor would be a good description. I think I was very resourceful because growing up, well, younger years, me like my family didn't have a lot. Obviously, over the years we've grown, but so whenever I wanted to do something, have something, like a lot of it was okay. How do I make the best out of what we do have, right? And I think that's where my initial creativity came from. My love for engineering came from my granddad. That was 100% just his stories, and I was like, I'm trying to be him. But I think and to be fair, my family's into business. Everyone has a like, everyone in my family is doing something. So I think it was just seeing everyone plus my own, like, just love for creativity. I was like, "Cool, this has to be me."
Yeah. Can you go into a bit more of how your family, your culture, your schooling kind of played a way in shaping how you think and act right now?
I think the biggest thing that my childhood brought for me was we moved around a lot. So when I was younger, sort of every year I would move school. And it wasn't even in the same place. Like I've lived all across the UK. And so I think I had to be very good at making friends because I couldn't rely on just, a couple friends that I could carry with me. And so I think that I use a lot now because now I'm, like, constantly trying to meet new people. Like, networking is probably what I spend 90% of my time doing.
Such a buzzword.
I know. But it's so true, but, like, I think I've taken networking to be more than just professionalism. Like, I think I'm genuinely friends with most of the people that I meet in a professional capacity, which is 100% something I've learned from my younger years, but also maintaining that because obviously I'd make friends and then I'd move away. And so it was on me to keep those friendships alive, even though it was like, I guess, long distance. So I think that's something that I've brought into the company as well, or like me navigating through this in that I will keep in touch and I'm not shy to like reach out months later. Like I will air someone for 5 months and then message and be like, "Hey, how my bad, how have you been?"
It's just about maintaining that relationship. It's not even about consistency sometimes, because
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't need to be consistent. I remember a lot of the advice that I got, I'm not sure if it was the same for you, was just network early, network early. But then it was just about kind of talking to 10 people in the room, but not maintaining that relationship. What kind of advice or things have you learned about maintaining that relationship and keeping that connection going, just not at the place that you met?
So I think it starts at the place where you
Yeah.
met. You have to go in with a friendship mindset. You know, get to know someone for who they are, not just what they can do for you. And through that, you have a lot of interesting conversations, and those are what you can then draw upon months later. So, like, even when I went to Switzerland for this conference, like, we were 200, like, young, what do you call it? Leaders of tomorrow, that's what they called us. They brought 200 of us, plus, like, I think total 600, like, people from different generations, whatever. And some people were there, you know, just network well, the typical version of networking, you know, like, "What's your LinkedIn?" Right? And then I think the majority, luckily, were very much like, "Hey, like, let's develop a friendship. Let's, you know, let's be emotionally vested in each other." And so now I've got friends from, like, genuinely all over the world that, like, I can call upon at any point. Like, one of my good friends, she's like a UX designer, so now when I redo the website, I know who I'm gonna talk to. But, like, that's not what we talk about on a day-to-day, you know, it's not like, "Hey, how's your professorship going?" It's like, "Hey, like, when are you next coming to the UK?" Or, like, "How's your sister doing? How's your cats doing?" It's about being personable, and it's about caring about the actual person, not just their role in your life.
I'm sure you have many, many connections. So how are you remembering these personal details about people? Because if I couldn't even tell you sometimes what my siblings like, so I just can't remember. But how are you maintaining those pieces of information in your head and be like, oh, this person that I've connected with, time ago, I'm gonna start a conversation with them, but I'm gonna go in like this. How are you thinking?
Um, to be honest, I think I do an initial reach out very quickly after I've met them. Like, I'll always send the, like, "It was lovely to meet you, hope," and I'll just add, like, a little anecdote into that message. So if I do ever wanna reach out, I've always got what
Something.
I wrote earlier. But also, if I have completely forgotten, I'll just bring up the event that I met them at. So, you know, for example, if I wanted to reach out to you, say, in a year, and I, for whatever reason, couldn't remember you, I'd just be like, "Hey, like, it was so great meeting you at, the graduate guide event. Like, how have things been since?" And, you know, I hope that that passes.
It would. It would. We're going to move on to kind of talking about your university journey. Obviously, it's still very fresh. So, you've just finished studying electrical and electronic engineering with innovation.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a mouthful. So, that's not exactly a small feat either. I can imagine how difficult it was. But how has that journey been?
Honestly, I loved it. I think university has definitely been one of the most taxing periods of my life. There was a lot that went on outside of academics and whatever. I think the growth that I've had during university is unparalleled. Like, I hope I grow like that again in the future, but, like, I've never seen anything close to it before.
I'm sure in university you felt at some point, even if it was briefly, imposter syndrome or
Well,
burnout. How how did you navigate that?
um, completely honestly, not very healthily for a long time. Um, so going in, I was just I was just confused, you know. I was like, these are smart people doing a smart degree and I'm here. I think initially, like the first year of university, I I didn't like not knowing stuff because it made me think it reaffirmed my belief that I wasn't supposed to be there. So I would just skip university lectures, which is such a stupid thing to do looking back. But because I would hate feeling like I was the dumbest person in the classroom, which a lot of the time I did feel like. Especially in fourth year because I was doing my masters, and so a lot of people that had graduated their bachelors, done a couple of years in industry, and then doing their masters were also part of our group. And so obviously they had a wealth of knowledge that went beyond theoretical. And so you'd sit there and the teacher would say, honestly, some alien language to you. And there are people just like scribbling their notes and just happy and answering all the questions. And you're saying that again, I have no idea what you said. Yeah, exactly. And
I just scratched my head.
and so I think Initially, it was avoidant. Eventually, I think I got to a point where I was like, whether I fail or not, like, I need to look myself in the mirror after this, and I'm only gonna do that if I try my best. That seemed to have worked. I see how I passed. But I think at some point I stopped fearing the failure of it. And a lot of the people that I met during university, they came from, like, very, very privileged backgrounds. Like, most of my friends were international, top tier, whatever. I saw how they used what they had to their advantage. Like, I think maybe it's a British thing, but a lot of people have a lot of guilt about the privilege that they have. And, they feel like, "Oh, I can't use this because I didn't earn it and I don't deserve it." But I think what I saw from a lot of my international friends was regardless of whether they earned it or felt they deserved it, they had it and they were gonna use it. And I think that mentality luckily at some point rubbed off on me where I was like, use what you have, do your best, and then if it's supposed to happen, it will. Um, but self-rejection was a big thing that I think I had to unlearn, which I think was mainly based on the imposter syndrome at the beginning.
That self-rejection bit is very real, especially at the beginning of doing something completely new because you feel out of place
Yeah.
at the start. But then I'm glad that you've kind of grown out of it and now you're here where you are. So your degree is it's got innovation and it's got engineering. So it's got that technical aspect and it's also got that creative aspect. Did you ever at any point feel kind of pulled between the creative and technical aspects of your degree?
I think there were certainly points at which academically I felt bored. So, innovation is like it sounds kind of easy, but it was actually really hard to score well in. Like, I think the first lecture they sat us down and they were like, most people don't get a first, so just stop dreaming. But engineering, I did very well academically. And so there was a lot of times where I was like, oh, I should have just done engineering because at least I would have come out easily, with one of the top grades, whatever. But I think career-wise or like passion-wise, to me, they're they're one and the same. Because every skill that I've learned in engineering, I've applied to innovation, and every skill I've learned in innovation, I've applied to engineering. I think both sides have made me better at the other one.
Complemented each other quite well.
Because, for example, like the work that I did in innovation, it was always like I always brought my technical background into it. Like, I'd be sitting there coding something or I'd like mock up something on like 3D design that was much more complicated than they expected. And equally, when I would approach an engineering coursework or something, I would have that framework from innovation where it's like, explore the problem, see what you can do, etc. Um, so I think they definitely helped each other. But obviously academically it was a bit it was a bit of a struggle.
And I guess those unique perspectives are now really important in what you do with Pleasantry as well, because you just need to be a unique founder to make it, as a founder with your company. So it sounds like the degree was kind of a perfect match for you in a way. Like it struck the balance for you. So that's really good. Okay. Now let's talk about Pleasantry because this is where you kind of really shine. Like even when I met you, first of all, you just love talking about it. And I was loving listening to all of it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so even in the UK, we know that I think these stats are correct, but 1 in 10 girls can't afford menstrual products.
Recently it's 1 in 5.
Oh my God, that's even worse. Um,
Yeah.
and globally, over 500 million people lack access to menstrual hygiene. And in India alone, so nearly 23 million girls drop out of school each year because of a lack of period education and access. So this is crazy. Not just the health issue here. We've got education issue and the opportunity issues as well. So let's just start with kind of what made you want to start Pleasantry. Is this a personal moment for you? A sense of frustration that sparked the idea? What was it?
So actually when I started it, I did not know much about the menstrual health issues and that world of it, right? But I really care about education. Like I always have, I think I always will. Education to me is like top priority. And so the first stat I read was actually 23% of girls drop out in India when they start their period or, due to puberty. And I was shocked. I genuinely could not believe almost a quarter girls were just, you know, they weren't getting the education they deserved, and it wasn't for, well, I didn't think there's any reason that can justify it, full stop. Um, and so I think that to me was like, okay, something has to be done. Um, I don't know how I got the idea. I think it's genuinely the first thing that popped into my head, and I was like, well, it seems to work. um, but the motivation was definitely that girls need to be in school. Since then, obviously, we've done a lot of research, and I've learned so much about like the female health space, and there's definitely a frustration that comes with that. And now I think a lot of my driving force is actually the frustration of, a lack of equality when it comes to health in general. But education will always, like, it's such a big topic, and it trickles down into so many different things. My initial driving motive was definitely education.
That's amazing because even in the UK, we need more education around periods and menstrual health as well. But yeah, so amazing stuff that you do. You've launched and distributed 3,000 units within the first month. That's not a joke. That's not easy, obviously. How did you even begin that? Walk me through it.
Okay, this is such a crazy story to me because actually, so I got the idea and I was like, okay, let me talk to companies about whether this is something they can see themselves using, right? And so I emailed a bunch of companies, whatever. The first company I emailed was an accommodation in Bristol, a student accommodation in Bristol. By some stroke of luck, they actually replied, and that's the company we ended up partnering with.
Wow.
So when I had that call with them, I thought I was just gonna do a bit of market research, figure out, what's gonna work and what's not. But I sort of told them about the idea, and they were like, "We want to place an order. Like, we want to get started with this. This is so important." And so within a week, I had to legally set up the company, get a bank account for the company, create a website for the company, create social medias for the company. Basically, all in all, like make it seem like this company was legit.
Yep. Legit running all in 1 week.
And I think it was by far the most stressful week of my life because I was in India.
Oh my gosh.
So I was with my family trying to spend time, and suddenly I was locked in my room for like a week. But obviously, at the end of that, they decided to go ahead and place 3,000, like an order of 3,000 units, which we donated to the University of Bristol. Yeah, I mean, we spent the last year just perfecting that order because there was just so many things that I didn't realize I would have to navigate through, I guess. So well, I say year, the last like 6 months, we've just spent figuring out how to make it a real, what's the word, scalable, make it as
What issues have you faced whilst trying?
really bureaucracy and red tape, because the people that we have to get in touch with, they're very difficult to get in touch with. In universities, we need permission to be able to give sanitary napkins out. So I think it's took us 3 months to get the university to give us approval. In terms of the manufacturing, like they would well, to be fair, they were okay, but they changed the price a lot. And then we would have to go back to the client, tell them that the price, it was just a whole headache. The clients, luckily, it was a small company. So actually, we reached out to the marketing manager, and she reached out to her manager, and it was sort of decided. Since then, we've been trying to communicate with bigger companies, and it's definitely a lot harder when there's more. Basically, the more layers you have to navigate through, the harder and longer it takes for anything to happen.
How do you think these brands should be thinking about their corporate social responsibility, not just in a performative way, not just so they can put a stat on their website, but genuinely thinking about impact?
Um, the thing is, I think it's so important for every company to look at how they can help socially, but in their sector. So, I wouldn't expect, I don't know, a water bottle company to suddenly think that we're a good fit, because we probably aren't. But so when I started Pleasantry, we were gonna just do sanitary napkins, call it a day, right? But the research that we did, and trying to involve the community, that taught us so much more about what's necessary. So since then, we've created board games that can help teach about menstrual health. We are currently creating workshops. Like, there's so many pivots that we've taken that have helped position us better to help people. And I can imagine it would be the same for any company that's looking into, social responsibility within their sector, because it's only when you talk to that community and, well, firstly, you build trust within them. The people that we've now talked to and helped, they trust us. They would, they would, they would come to us if there's a problem. They would tell us if our products were wrong or whatever, right? And I think a lot of companies, they maybe ignore the benefit of genuine care.
Mm.
Um, Obviously, it does also just help formatively. I think in this day and age, if you're not doing something for the community, it looks bad. But I think you as a company strengthen so much when you're doing something,
Mm.
and not your positioning, your offerings just get so much better.
Definitely agree with that. So now we've kind of looked at the technical aspect of Pleasantry, how it works, what you're doing, the impact, etc. Now let's look at you as the builder of Pleasantry. How are you emotionally holding space for something like period poverty? Because I can imagine the more you look into it, the more you're like, oh my God, what the hell? Like these thoughts coming up. So how are you emotionally holding space for a topic like this whilst being the builder and kind of the forefront of your company?
Um, I think I've channeled all of it into just fixing it. So, like, when I found out about the massive issue of in education, because that was not something I'd considered before researching. Um, I think initially I was quite like, oh my gosh, like people don't know stuff, and I don't know stuff. Like I'm still learning so much about sanitary products, and menstrual health, and I'm like, if me who's had sex ed and I've gone to good schools and all of this, if I don't know enough about my body, you can imagine the state. And I think initially I was like, oh my gosh, but I think I just channeled all of that into like finding a solution. Like every issue I came across, I was like, cool, this is how we're gonna solve it. And then all of the energy was just solving it.
Is the inner engineer in you coming out? Like, I can fix it, I can solve it. Just show me where.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Okay, now at university again. So you were president of Hindu Society at Bristol and you've taken on multiple leadership roles. So what do you think your leadership style is?
Um,
We know fixing problem.
I think I'm very like the team is all together. I've forgotten the word for it.
The glue?
Maybe I've forgotten the word I was thinking, but yeah, basically, I think the way I work best personally is I have 100 things running in my head, and I just like to tell people, and then I trust them to do what they know how to do best. So, like, even with Pleasantry, the one thing I can't do is social media. It's just not my cup of tea. And so the first person I brought on board was a social media person. And I think I very much just let them do their thing. And if I've got an idea, I'll tell them. And if like something isn't quite going the way I want it to, I'll let them know. But for the most part, it's just a lot of trust.
How do you think you lead without losing your mind? I mean, you've just mentioned that you like it when there's 100 things going on in your head, but don't you feel like sometimes you're kind of losing it a bit and not focused or, yeah, just focused?
Yes. Um, I the thing is, I think I thrive under that sort of pressure.
Mm.
Like, the times when I've not had much to do is when I've performed the least. Like, even the tasks I have had, I've just done terribly. I think that sort of stress keeps me on my toes, and I'm the sort of person I like to be looking in 100 different directions.
Mm.
Like, when I'm bored of one thing, I can suddenly look towards
Stuff like different directions.
because I think why the founder journey was for me, because I think having one stable job would have driven me crazier somehow.
Fair enough.
But I think I make a lot of lists. Like everywhere I go, there will be post-it notes. Like even now, obviously the listeners won't know, but
Yeah.
I've got post-it notes
Post-it notes, yeah, I can see them. They're just like in one pile together.
No, genuine, like you could see the calendars behind me. It's like there's post-it like if someone got me Post-it notes for my birthday, I would think they know me better than anyone else. So I think lists help.
I also feel like sometimes I have a billion things in my head, but I will just sit down for an hour without any music, any nothing, and just write it all down, and then I'll go and split it up, etc.
No, it's interesting you bring up music because I think growing up, I used to, listen to music 24/7, like studying, whatever. I was listening to music. Recently, I don't know what it is, but I just can't. Like, if I need to get work done, it has to be dead silent.
So, what would you say to a 16-year-old version of you if you could go back right now?
Um, Trust yourself.
Mm,
Um, I guess be patient, but believe that the ideas running in your head, what you think you're made for, just trust it.
mm,
Which I guess comes back to the same self-rejection thing.
yeah,
Um, like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
yeah.
And I guess less on like a work front, but on a personal front, I would say like keep your friends close. I think I lucked out, to be honest. I have genuinely the best friends I could ever find. They are such a support system. Like you need whatever you choose to do in life, start founding, like, found a company, get a job, whatever. I think having that support system and having people that genuinely cheer you on and also tell you um when you're being stupid. Um, I don't think there's anything in life that can top that.
I love that. Love that. What's a lesson do you think you're still learning, and maybe you've been learning for a while?
Patience. I think I am so like because anything pops up in my head, I'm a very fail fast person. So anything that happens, I'm like, cool. Like I have to, you know, work on it immediately and then I expect to see the results immediately too. And I think the journey that started Pleasantry didn't help with that because that completely reaffirmed what I enjoy, right? Now obviously I'm having to slow it down and I'm purposely having to slow it down at points. So I think what I'm learning is to be okay with like the silence and this not stagnance, not being stagnant, like just letting the ball roll for a bit.
Fair enough. Funny that you mentioned patience because I was having a conversation earlier about gratification, delayed versus instant gratification, and I think I still am the instant gratification person. I mean, isn't everyone a little bit? You're lying if you say you're like, "Oh, I love delayed grat." Stop. No one loves it. It's discipline. No one loves it. It's discipline, exactly. But just building is so very important, especially when it comes to founding a company and maintaining, yeah, maintaining it. For anyone listening who wants to do something meaningful like yourself, but doesn't know where to start, so maybe they're struggling to find an idea for a problem, or that they don't think they have the resources, or they don't have the resources, or the self-belief is just not there. What would you say to them?
I was actually talking to someone about this yesterday. In terms of trying to find an idea, trying to solve a solution, co-create. The the best thing you can do is find people that have that problem and ask them what they want. And don't just ask them in like a ask to listen sort of ask to understand. Use the frameworks that are around the tool. Like, tools aren't just physical tools, tools are mental frameworks as well, right? Use those to actually deeply understand the problem space that you want to work in, and choose a problem space that you enjoy. And in terms of resources, I genuinely I this might be a bit naive of me. I don't think you need many resources to start something. Pleasantry, we did not need any capital to start it. Everything, like the model that we chose, it was we only spend money once we make money. And I think there's a way you can spin any idea to somewhat emulate that. Find your minimum viable product. Yeah, there we go. Make sure there's traction around that, and then go from there. Obviously, if you try and get your most perfect version out, well, you're setting yourself up for something because it's not going to be perfect until you tried it.
Yeah.
There will always be something you have to change.
If you could swap minds with any entrepreneur for a day, who would it be?
Oh, I don't know if people know him, but there's some guy called Simi Dillon. He started Simmers, which is like some
Simmerits. Yeah.
yes. And like maybe it's because he's another Bristol boy. Like he went to the same university as me. or like because he's just grown. Like I've read his story, like about his story a lot. But I just really like if I could talk to him once in my life, I would be so happy. Like I feel like I'm a
I
fan.
hope this message gets out to the universe and somehow he sees and then he's like, he slides into your LinkedIn DM saying, let's have a conversation. Let's have a
It's the way I want to partner with him for Pleasantry as well.
real.
But I just love what he's done because he started when he was very young. Like I think he was like 18 or something when he started from his kitchen. Middle class family, grew everything he's done. He recently like paid off his parents' mortgage and everything. I'm like, like it's just good. It's a good story. It's a good man.
It's a big head. It's
Yeah. And I just love to. He's Ari, well, just a bit older, but
within our generation.
yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I would love to pick his brain.
Well, thank you so much for being here. You've brought a lot of clarity and courage to the conversation that we've had today, which I love. And I know a lot of people listening and will listen to this are walking away with a whole new perspective. So, just to end, where can listeners follow your journey, hear about you, hear about Pleasantry, or just support the incredible work that you're doing?
Um, okay, so Pleasantry would be our social media that we're currently trying to grow. We're like 95 followers, which isn't
Follow.
so that's pleasantry.initiative.
Yep.
Pleasantries with an I, not a Y. Or on LinkedIn. Yeah, I think it's just Pleasantry on LinkedIn. And then me personally, Adishree Bansal on LinkedIn.